are back again. It's Atlanta Discuss. Yes, every Friday we come with a juicy topic, something that reverberates with the people. Yes, I know I've been accused of having a lot of soft spot for Nigeria. Well, I am not going to apologize for that. The reasons are not perfect. Nigeria, it remains the largest concentration of black people on the planet, not just the continent. We have verifiable statistics that shows us that 1 out of every 4 sub-Saharan African is a Nigerian. There are statistics that shows us that 1 out of every 6 black persons in the world is a Nigerian. Nigeria is clearly acting behind schedule in so many things, you know. People like Nelson Mandela have said in the past that if Nigeria gets it right, Africa will get it right. So I agree with that, you know, that whatever is slowing Africa down, if Nigeria gets its act together, it will be resolved. So today we're talking about the Nigerian media, and we have our friend, our in-house person, fantastic person, erudite scholar, Dr. Akpan from South Africa. Dr. Akpan, welcome to Atlanta Discuss.
Hi, Ade. How are you? How's it doing?
I'm doing great. So today we're going to talk about the role of the media in national development in Nigeria. Yeah, have they live up to the billing, or they are just there for? Are they just texturally the media? A lot of people call them the fourth estate of the realm. But well, there's a lot to talk about. There's a lot to say, whether they're living up to it or not. And the Nigerian media has a lot of history. It's been there before even the country got independent. So we'll look at that, and Dr. Akpan, I'm sure, will do justice to this. So, Dr. Akpan, my first question to you was going to be, is Nigerian media living up to the billing? But if I ask you that question, you probably will have answered all the questions I was going to ask in one. So, how does the media shape public opinion? Let me start with that. How does the media shape public opinion?
Yeah, okay. Essentially, there's a theory of the media that is called agenda setting theory. So in that wise, what it means that the media establish the kind of national discourse that will go on, the kind of conversation that will go on in any society, and in this case, Nigeria. And through that agenda setting role, the media helps in shaping public opinion, because essentially what you read repeatedly becomes the national conversation, the national discourse, as it were. So to the extent where the media, like you mentioned in your intro, that the media is a fourth realm of the estate. So it is a constitutional role that the media has, and the media is very strategic in national development. Okay, the government will have to mobilize. The media is a platform, is an institution that you can use in mobilizing the citizenry into galvanize them and their energy into national development. So to achieve the national development, which are goals that you have set, objectives and goals that you have set to be able to either socio-economic and political, you need the media to be able to drive that. And now, so in achieving that, you need to set an agenda. The media will need to set an agenda where the conversation will go on, and that in itself will shape public opinion. But let me quickly state here that it depends on also the country in which this media is operating, because there are some certain, what you call the 4 theories of the press. And let me just quickly look at the 2 theories of the press, because they kind of like overlap each other. There's one that you call the communist, the Soviet communist theory. And in that regard, the theory, and that is very popular in any country that is communist, socialist bent, like, former USSR, current day China and all that. So in that regard, there's a strong influence of the government in the media, and everything is targeted. I mean, you look at also societies like North Korea, Iran, everything is geared towards mobilizing the citizenry to only focus on government objectives. So there's hardly any other views that are aired in the media except what the government wants you to hear. Okay, through a concept of what you call the bullet theory or the epidemic needle theory. But when you are operating within a freer space like Nigeria, and I must say that the Nigerian media is quite irrepressible. So within that space, you have what you call the democratic libertarian theory. That way, you also have private media participating. But overall, there should be a responsibility of every media to be able to mobilize citizenry against national security, but also to achieve developmental goals of the government. So to that extent, the media obviously shapes public opinion. I mean, you think of what you hear and you act based on what has been said to you repeatedly.
I agree with you. Absolutely. So what role does the media play in holding leaders accountable? I mean, how do they encourage transparency in government, especially in the Nigerian context? Do you think they're doing just that? Are they doing it properly?
Yes, to some extent. I mean, if you look at it from a contemporary point of view, you can debate that. But if you look at it from the historical perspective, the historical role of the Nigerian media, then you can say in the past you could quickly be, chest out and say that the media had done a lot. I mean, the media had a lot of steals even before independence. Okay, from in fighting for independence, even engaging the colonial people then, the British colonial officers. The media did a lot of work in holding them to account, and eventually became the platform in which many journalists, many politicians in Nigeria apparently were also journalists or own media houses. I mean, look at the likes of Herbert Macaulay, Akintoye Ajasa, people like Dr. Nnamdi Azikiwe, or Obafemi Awolowo, Ernest Okoli, Peter Enahoro, who was the youngest editor, as I think still remains the youngest editor. He was, yes, and all that. So you see that at that point, the media was able to hold the political officers at that time, being the British, into account. And that was a major driver that eventually got us independence. And after that, the media maybe went into, there was a bit of, if you like, a little bit of honeymooning also. But the media became a lot more vibrant and held government into account when, if you remember, after the 1993 elections were annulled, and believed to have won the Junto election, believed to have won by Bashorun MKO Abiola. Okay, and then after that, the media, in conjunction with other people, really held the military junta at that time to account, especially when Abacha succeeded on Shonekon. So the media, he tried to muscle the media. Some of the media went underground, and then what you call guerrilla journalism emerged, and they held him to account and eventually succeeded in that case. So in these two eras, you can see the media has done it. Media did a very good job in terms of holding political office holders, either military or politicians, to account. But in recent times, I mean, very recent history, the media seems to be wavering in the sense that the malaise that has affected Nigeria and Nigerians also seems to have affected the media, as it were. And I'll give you two quick examples, or two major reasons for that. One, the training of the contemporary journalists may not be as strong as it used to be in the past. I mean, back in the days, and especially when people like Lateef Jakonde, Segun Oshoba, and all that, these are journalists that eventually became governors. But while they were journalists, they did a lot, but they received a lot of good training. And I know that an institution was set up in Nigeria called the Nigerian Institute of Journalism that trained a lot of journalists. I mean, I think at the first head of that institution was the Alhaji Lateef Jakonde, who was Lagos State governor at a point in time between 1979 until the military came. Okay. And then they got a lot of training then. And then it's important that we understand the ethics of journalism and the role and how to report news and all that, either as print or broadcast journalism. But in recent times, especially where the media space have been democratized, what you call the democratization of the media, and then social media has become a major role. And because of the emergence of social media, where what you call citizen journalism, also anybody can stand anywhere and report online, real time, record anything and all that. All kinds of bloggers have come, all kinds of things have come up. And then you also have the newspapers because of dwindling adverts. Okay, adverts is now more online because of it has a lot of population that affected the traditional media. So all of them went online also. So that online issue now is what has also diluted the quality of reportage and the quality of journalism. So there lies a contemporary problem where all kinds of characters that don't have any kind of journalistic training, but now have access to a lot of audience. And then they just post things that are right or wrong. So propaganda, as it were, had become a major propaganda, in the sense that negative propaganda supporting politicians rather than supporting the country, writing to extol whatever the political persuasions that they have, rather than looking at national development. So at times you see that there is a lot of information in the information space right now that the consumers are maybe a lot more influenced by the regular bloggers on social media than even the online newspapers like Punch, Vanguard these days that are also on paper. So I think these are the issues in contemporary times.
Yeah, I agree with you, because I interviewed one guy called Mr. Macaroni, very popular guy.
Okay, see, a skit maker, right?
Yeah, skit maker. So, and when I asked him for his resume so that I could introduce him properly, one of the things he said is that he has a reach. All the social media handle combined has a reach of maybe, I think he said 100 or 200 million people. I can't remember right now, but was a very, very crazy figure. And I think
huge.
Yeah, it is huge. And I'm sure, when you read Audit Bureau of Circulation for Nigerian newspaper, I think Punch still has the largest still the largest newspaper in circulation. I don't know how much they are circulating now, but I'm sure it's not up to 1 million, so.
No, I don't think so. I don't even think it's up to 500,000.
Exactly. So, and also when you have people on Twitter alone that have 2 million subscribers, 1 million subscribers. Anyway, let's move on, So, can the media help promote national unity and cohesion in Nigeria? Can they?
Oh, yes, a lot.
Okay.
In recent times, I'm just finishing a book that I'm co-writing with a certain scholar in the UK, and another one in South Africa, where we're looking at peace journalism. Okay, so in my position of, again, I want to go back to the personnel. The personnel matters so much. So in peace journalism, the disposition of the personnel, which of course, taking this also from the last academic journal that I published, where I argued that the disposition of a leader matters a lot in conflict resolution. And in this case, I thought women had a better disposition towards peace. They are less egoistic and all that. So if you take that, if you carry that thinking into the paper I just finished writing, and which I also further the argument that the disposition of the journalist, okay, matters so much. So if the disposition of the journalist is national cohesion, is a nationalist in his thinking, so it will reflect in his writing. Now, understand that when you are doing reporting alone, news reporting, you could have where you just look at the 5 basic elements of news reporting: objectivity, brevity, what, and all that. That you can just write. So you are hardly involved in that. That is more of objective reporting. But when you begin to go to the realm of opinions, okay, feature writing, and a lot of these days you have a lot of columnists and opinions, and because you're dealing with social media, a lot of guests are being invited to TV and all that, and these things are put on social media because, like you rightly said, that is where the audience now resides. That is where the square, the village square is right now. And Facebook, for instance, with a population of over 1 billion people, and with the Nigerian population, I'm sure that possibly half the Nigerian population are on Facebook or Twitter or whatever. So, so having that kind of huge amount of people listening to a certain jaundiced view, okay, that becomes a problem. Okay, that might not engender national unity. But the traditional papers, when they are online, of course, they continue with their traditional role of reporting and holding. But the main challenge of national unity, as it were now, is the social media. Okay, it has become a very toxic place that in recent times, especially from 2014, okay, till date, you've seen a lot of division among Nigerians on the social media. And if we have to be very direct, You look at the mobilization when Goodluck Jonathan was in government, you saw some kind of propaganda that was run against government and led by Lai Mohammed and all that. That in itself changed the face of political reporting, especially on social media as it were. So by 2023, when the last election that we had, Nigerians already had been grossly wounded by the Buhari administration. There was a lot of lack of opportunities. The country had gone into serious cleavages either on ethnic and religious ground. So these dispositions, these realities from Nigerians were now carried into the social media, which is the current king, so to speak, in terms of media, even though it is not as formal as the traditional media, but howbeit it is the biggest media. So that in itself has not helped national development. Look at the last election and all that. Even some very senior journalists made some very unfortunate comments, okay, that created a lot of ethnic divisions. And after the election of 2023, that battle is still raging on social media. Either on Facebook or anything in terms of, so national unity is threatened by the emergence of social media in Nigeria, because everybody now has access, everyone now has space. Like I said, there's a democratization of the media space, and there's citizen journalism right now where everybody who can just achieve any whatever phone and data and is on social media can just air some kind of opinion and put some lies out there, some lies that are just not historically or statistically correct. But people run into it, people who don't even check, who don't even read to confirm anything, okay? And there is no editor, there's no gatekeeper to stop you from posting things that are incorrect, that are inimical to national development. So this is a major problem that we have in Nigeria today, where every canary without any kind of journalistic training, like I mentioned before. So there isn't any ethics, as it were, no ethic of journalism. People just go there. Even the ones that are supposed to know more, supposed to know better, the ones that were trained, also join the fray, all to satisfy political objective, okay, or where their bread is being buttered. So it's a major problem. But otherwise, the media itself is critical for national unity. So I will put the responsibility at the footstep of the government right now. The government now should intentionally promote national unity using their own media platform and an agency they call National Orientation Agency. I'm not even sure what that agency does right now. I'm not sure. I know it is there in existence. It is supposed to be an agency, an organ of government that will mobilize people for national development and unity. But I don't even know what they are doing right now. I hope they don't have a budget of traveling to pilgrimage and all that, because you see all kinds of funny budget headings these days. So, but that agency and the government should, as a responsibility, okay, promote, because national unity is actually national security. The moment unity is compromised, every other thing goes wrong with it. Government cannot achieve its objectives and programs because there will be division. So it is meant to, and it should, but the government has to do a lot more to promote national unity through their own instrument program.
Yeah, but do you think, I mean, let's look at it this way. The social media has come to stay. I don't think it's going anywhere.
No, it's not.
Social media, yeah, we had what you call the traditional media, the Punch, Tribune, and all that. You understand? Today, things have changed. So,
yeah.
Do you think the social media, I mean, I'm sure Punch is not making as much money as they make online selling raw newspaper. You understand? So everybody's online, Punch is online, Tribune is online, Guardian is online. Everybody, I mean, if you're not online now, you're not a serious traditional media. Even the TV stations, the CNNs of this world, they all have online social media representation. So, but my question to you is this, right? If there was no social media, do you think, I mean, you said it indirectly, and possibly even directly, that the media is sort of compromised now, especially traditional media. Well, social media has helped bring more light to things, but do you think that if there was no social media, we'll have access to some information that we have today? Because to the best of my knowledge, there are information we have today that the traditional media are not telling us about.
Certainly not. The advent of internet itself was what you call the superhighway, information superhighway. Certainly not. So many things that happened in the past that were suppressed. Okay, where before the media came. I mean, at a point in time in Nigeria also, you didn't have even the private media, so you really relied on NTA. Whatever they tell you, I mean, you might as well be having something happening somewhere in a city somewhere. NTA will be showing you Arugungu Festival, fishing festival. So you only watch what they show you. And then when you watch what they show you, that means they shapen your opinion and your thinking towards that. So a lot of things were suppressed. And what you just got to hear was a lot of press releases from government houses. So, but as at that time, the traditional print media, because they were private. I mean, like you mentioned, Punch, Tribune is the oldest surviving paper right now. And I think followed by Punch. Tribune was started by Obafemi Awolowo, yes. And then Punch by Aboderi. And then later on, you have like Vanguard and, Guardian these days and all that, by Hebrews and Obaigbena of this day coming. So the traditional media did their best, but what were their reach? As at the peak of circulation by audit, like you said, the ABC, as at the peak, I'm not sure traditional media were able to circulate, close to even 1 million. No, maybe, 200,000-300,000. They didn't get to that point. But also remember that media literacy is key. So if people couldn't really read and write as it were, and then, affordability is key. How many people used to buy newspapers at that time? And how many people could actually read those newspapers at that time? So it was limited. So the advent of social media opened up the space. So it was an information superhighway. If you don't even need to read or write, know how to read, you don't have to be literate. All you need is just data and one phone that is enabled, that can get you Facebook or what. Or most of, like you rightly said, all the TV houses, all the TV houses anywhere in the world, they have a presence on the social media. So you just click on it, you listen. So even if you can't read or write, at least you can hear, you listen and all that. Okay. So before the advent of the social media, the information was not as available as it is today. But after the advent and particularly the social media, when the social media came, and I think Facebook brought a revolution within the online space, so much so that almost all the media houses right now have Facebook pages. They have Twitter pages, or what you call X pages now. They have some probably might even have Instagram, all kinds of things and thread. So so right now that is where the town square, what the Haberman discuss as well, where we have a town square people meet to discuss and all that. That's where it is happening right now. So currently there is a lot more access to information. How be it? The information itself, okay? How do we manage the information? Now that becomes a major issue because it is difficult, and I'm not one of those that will support any kind of clamping down on the social media. I mean, we don't live in any communist society, but how do we get people to be responsible? It goes back to the government, because the kind of venom that you see at times, especially within the Nigerian social media space, is the reality of the political and economic circumstances in Nigeria, where somehow the politicians have succeeded in bringing division among the people, just to win their votes. And the moment they win their vote, they leave the people to their own. But this war rages even after the election. So that is where the problem actually lies. It is the recklessness and irresponsibility of the Nigerian political class that has poisoned the Nigerian social media community. Rather than discuss national development and cohesion and unity, we spend more time discussing what divides us more than what should unite us. Supporting this party, this individual and all that. Parties without even ideology. Some of these people don't even have understanding of the programs of the party. I mean, I even struggle to understand some programs of political parties myself. So not talk of the average consumer. So these are the issues that we really need to look at if we need to get our country moving.
Nigeria is clearly a country that is not doing well economically. There's been failure of leadership. I mean, I'm not going to apologize for that. I mean, the president of the day, I wasn't expecting so much, and he's not doing so much. I mean, the ship of state is rudderless. There's no doubt about that. I mean, so, but on issue of accountability, I mean, if you follow, there's this guy, Shemonik Bide, I don't know if you know him. He always breaks down the budget. There's all duplication of this, duplication of that. And recently, at the end bad governance protest, a lot of the journalists from social media, online media that are not the normal traditional media have been arrested. There's a gentleman, what's his name? Fisher Shirombo, fantastic guy, he's been my guest before. He embedded himself with the custom at the border. He has embedded himself with criminals in the prison.
Yeah, investigative journalists, yeah.
Yes, just to know exactly what is happening. And this guy, instead of the custom and the Nigerian police to punish people for what he exposed, they're trying to hound him and, prosecute him and all that. So, well, journalism is risky all over the world. But based on what I ask you, do you think the social media is doing more expose than the traditional media?
Oh, sure. Yeah, sure. I mean, these days, I don't even know how these people do it. This day, a memo within the presidency, before it's even, before it gets to the desk of whoever the memo is meant for, he's online already. So we even read, and all that. You see, in some of my recent studies, I've tried to zero in on things on how the social media has played a very strong role in health communication, in development communication, like health education and stuff like that, especially in health. So the media is very key. And then in that media, some of my researches have shown that, I research a lot in South Africa, and you'll say that the media in South Africa is very robust. And I mean, MTN in that is popular in Nigeria, that has a higher subscriber base in Nigeria, is originally South African, company with also a huge subscriber base, including places like Vodacom and all that, Cell C and the rest of them, Telcom. So that translates to a lot of South Africans have access to social media also, because they own this phone and then they do that. And the fact that to get a good phone in South Africa, you don't necessarily need to pay cash. You can do through credit. You can buy through credit and pay over time as lay-by. So that automatically gives every Dick and Harry in South Africa, almost every Dick and Harry, a social media enabled phone. So that has shown me, and in my research, is that social media is a very strong tool in national development, including health issues. When you want to promote health literacy and all that, is very important. Take that also to the political space and unity space and in the political arena. So when there are issues that are either breaking, the first place you get these issues are from the social media. Okay. One guy somewhere will just take the information where it is breaking or where the event is happening. And maybe if he doesn't want to send it directly, he passes it to his friend or relative or whatever. That one breaks it as a blogger, either on Facebook or X or something. Before the traditional papers, who now have an online presence, before they even publish it, they themselves have joined the fray. They first flash it, breaking news, and they flash it there, because this whole concept of publishing first is still holding sway in journalism. So they want to publish also, because that also brings traffic to your, but remember that you make money from traffic also coming. Adverts comes to you when you have huge traffic. So all this government, malfeasance and what corruption and all that, most of them are exposed on the social media, exposed through the social media. Remember that even though we do not know, but if you cast your mind back to when a certain investigative journalist, Delegiwa, was killed through a letter bomb. Now, God knows the kind of information that they had about some people, and then life was snuffed out of him. So that information, that expose perished with him. And so many other journalists that just disappeared and all that, because they had access to some certain level of information. But right now, how many people are you going to arrest? I mean, if you put the total population of the security agencies as against the Nigerians that have social media on their hands, the ratio is almost 1 to nothing. So you can't arrest everybody. So that now makes it a more the propensity for exposing any kind of malfeasance is higher with the social media. So the social media actually has and can be used more as a major platform in checking and fighting corruption, especially when the office holder knows that whatever he's doing, he's not sure who is there with him, who is recording, who is watching. And before he knows it, he's already on the social media. And the danger of social media against those kind of things is that the moment your things about you get there, your children get to read it immediately, because there's immediacy in the social media. Your wife get to read it. Everybody gets to read it, your community. So you are exposed. So it also brings some level of embarrassment to you. So that in itself should become a deterrent for corruption, at least not praising corruption anymore. You are careful now to be a lot more corrupt so that it doesn't get to the social media space, especially now that the young Nigerians seem very angry because they are disillusioned, lack of opportunities, lack of economic opportunities, lack of inclusion. So, I mean, some guys have left school 10, 20 years down the road, they are still looking for jobs, some with very good results. So the anger, they're taking it to, so when they get any information like that, they just put it on social media immediately, whether it is verified or not. I mean, we can get into the age of you denying and trying to clarify and all that, but already it's on the social media space. So the social media has played a role in terms of exposing corruption within the political space and another space also.
Yeah. Do you think the social media should be regulated? Do you think it should?
Now, that's a very important question. There's a paper I've also written that hasn't been published, has been peer reviewed, and I was looking at the social media. Apparently, there are 3-4 papers that are still with peer review that are spoken, and I wrote about social media as it were. One, I tried to look at WhatsApp, in the role of WhatsApp messaging in political communication. The other time I tried to look at the division between the south and the southern areas and all that. Now, there has been an attempt to regulate the social media through all kinds of legislation from the National Assembly and all that. But it's going to be very, very difficult because the history of the Nigerian press, ever since it was started in 1894, thereabout, by Reverend Townsend, and then went on to Dr. Nnamdi Azikiwe era, Herbert Macaulay till date and all that, the government had never been able, either colonial, military, or civilian government, had not been able to repress the media. Okay, even when Abacha attempted it, it created the underground media. Even in them back then, you had what you call the Lagos Ibadan axis of press. So it is difficult it's very difficult to regulate the social media in the sense that how are you going to regulate it? Are you going to have a blank out? Are you going to are you going to use the China model where you just blank out everybody and all that? In 2024, where information is an enabler for so many things, because the social media is also a tool that could be used for national development and for it's an innovative platform. So what we should be looking at is responsible governance rather than struggling to, I mean, you will have some few issues there and there and all that. Yes, you can pass laws where you can track cyber laws and all that, where if you put information that are at variance with national security and all that, yes, the person can be tracked, or you embarrass somebody. The issue of defamation of character and all that can be extended to cover. So the laws that are existing already, the media laws that are existing already can be extended, and the social media must be recognized as a platform of media, not just the traditional media or TV or newspaper or magazine. The social media should be seen as an institution, one of the institutions of the media. Therefore, every law, the media laws in Nigeria, should be extended to cover. So there will be enough laws for you to prosecute. I mean, in these days, you can be tracked in terms of your Twitter, your handle, or whatever it is that you're doing, to account for whatever you have done, either at personal or institutional level. But to not have that kind of dictatorial, no, that can't work, because you need the media. Like you started by noting that the media is the fourth realm of the earth. It is the watchdog. It is the watchdog of the society. I remember back then in higher institution in Nigeria, I used to edit a certain paper, a campus paper called Watchdog. The media is a watchdog, and it also holds the institutions, because what you have the three major divisions of government: is the executive, legislature, the judiciary. Now the media is now the fourth. That's why it's called the fourth realm. They are the first three that are traditional. So it's called the fourth realm, and it's a constitutional responsibility that they have to be able to watch those other three arms of government and hold them account. So they are the watchdog, and they are also important in bringing national cohesion and developing society. So that will be a very dangerous approach to go. I mean, we can't take Nigeria back to those dark ages. Everybody is moving forward. We can't be looking at over-regularization of the social media. What we should do is expand the existing media law to cover it, one. Two, what exactly is making the social media in Nigeria toxic is bad governance. It's anger in the land. So the young people are angry. I mean, you talked about the end bad government, and there was NSAS. All these are reactions to bad government or bad governance. So if the government will choose to be responsible, and indeed they should be, then you discover that it will tone down the rhetorics on the social media and the anger. And then you discover that you have a more nicer place to be able to relate. So the way to go is not regulation.
Let me quickly chip this in. How do we now balance free speech? There must be some check and balance, because I mean, you are there in South Africa. Social media has been a medium for dissipating. For spreading, rather, not dissipating, for spreading information on xenophobia and all that. You understand? In as much as it's a good medium to spread information, it's also a medium to spread disinformation and what have you. So how do we balance free speech? There should be a way out of,
Yes. Okay. So first, the right for you to have free speech is a constitutional right. Okay.
Because the question initially was about regulation and all that. So, I mean,
yes.
So, I mean, you're saying it's not advisable to do it. There should be freedom of speech, freedom of association, freedom of disassociation.
Yes.
Okay, but it's also
how do you manage that?
How do we balance it? Yeah.
Yes. Exactly. So, like we rightly said, free speech or association is inalienable right that cannot be taken away from you. Those are fundamental human rights. So we need to now work within that framework of fundamental human rights. Now, traditionally, the laws in Nigeria, there are all kinds of laws that covers media and information dissemination and all that, from defamation of character to even innuendo, to even things like sedition and all that, when you're acting against the government. Innuendo, for instance, even when it's suggestive that you are creating an impression without actually using the word, you could still be sued for innuendo. So most of the media platforms are registered, especially most of the users. You need to have a phone and a number to be able to get on the social media. And by through the technology also, you can know who the owner of that particular handle is. You can track it. That can be tracked. You can look at it and then make investment in that area. So when somebody goes on and make particularly information or disinformation or misinformation that is seditious in nature, the government can go after the person. For instance, you talked about your one of the guests that has been hounded by this current government because of
because of bad governance protests, yes.
Exactly. And then even the other investigative journalist, David Hundeyin and all that, is also being declared wanted. And I think there was another gentleman that just landed from the UK. They arrested him at the airport, and all kinds of a clampdown and all that is happening. Now, while as bad as that is in itself, but these guys, okay, some of them have name recognition, so you can know. But even when people don't have name recognition, also you can still track them down through technology. So what you need to do, again, it goes back to education itself. It's very key. The question is that why would somebody want to defame other people? Okay. What is the level of education that we will have in our school system and all that? So it's a process. So what you see display on the social media is a lot of people that are not properly informed themselves. Either history, they don't have historical education, and they have been so conditioned through kind of ethnic division and all that. I mean, and they look at the current misinformation or disinformation that is ongoing in the Nigerian social media space. It is essentially, if you do a content analysis, it is focused more on ethnic biases. It is focused more on ethnic biases. So the question is that why? So it is also a learning process for the government to look at. I mean, a proper government should be able to look at because that's a reflection of the society. So they should be able to look at, okay, this is a problem, and then begin to bring in programs through the Ministry of Information and all their organs, including national orientation agencies, to diffuse those information, get also into the social media space and begin to promote these information that are right. Look, even Nigerians that are living abroad are as toxic as Nigerians that are living in Nigeria.
Absolutely.
Because they have filial relationship. So even those abroad, they get into this situation, they start to, and all that. But the positive side of it is that you talked about xenophobia, for instance. One of the last xenophobia that happened in South Africa and all that, one of the ways that they used in also holding the government of South Africa accountable was through the social media also. Yes, a lot of the videos and pictures sent were false. They were not true. They were not verified. But that also rattled the government, and that the government had to go around Africa to engage. Okay. And then two, if you look at the Chidinma issue that happened, the battle was fought and won, so to speak, if you like to use one, on the social media. It was the social media that eventually made Ben Bruce and his organization, Miss Nigeria University, to invite Chidinma to come to Nigeria. And so Nigerians were united at that point on the social media. So there is a common good that can reunite Nigerians, that can bring nationalism in them, and then they unite to fight. But the question is that when it comes to us, why are we so toxic? It is because of the politicians and the bad governance that is happening. So, yes, you can't track them down. The laws are already there, and you can prosecute them. Even when they are abroad, you can liaise with the foreign country where they are living through Interpol or through whatever government to government relationship, and fish the guy out, and then you can prosecute him. So when people know that there are deterrents in terms of that kind of thing can happen, yes, they will. But much more importantly, why is there so much of bad blood on the social media among Nigerians? I think that is what we need to also focus on.
Yes, okay, I will get to that. As the traditional media, do you think it has been compromised? I mean, maybe not all, but I mean, do you think the traditional media has been compromised? And if
yes. Oh, yes. I mean, one of the things that I've also noticed is that anytime even local government chairman these days, governor and president, minister, anybody that has any kind of appointive office or elective office, they choose from the journalists to become media aid, media assistant, media.
Where else do you want them to choose from? It has to be from.
They can take from Nigerian Institute of Public Relations, because even then, the journalists themselves, some journalists have not done well at all. I mean, I am of the opinion that even the president will need, President Tinubu right now needs more of a public relation manager than a journalist. Because a journalist is limited to just writing, whether print or broadcast. But a PR person is somebody who is intentional in anticipating crisis and putting programs in place to manage the different publics. A journalist, all of them belong to the field of communication, but somebody who is out and out a journalist, maybe a newspaper person, may not understand the principles of public relations. So I would even think that more of a PR person should be more. But having said that, so the moment these people know, these politicians who don't even know any better anyway when it comes to communication management, so they just go towards a journalist, to go and appoint a journalist. More important, most critically, if you look at it, out of 10, 7 of those appointments will come from the ethnic group of the politician. Okay, so now you see journalists now working very hard to make themselves prominent in support of the politician. Peradventure he wins. That in itself is compromise without even inducement. By positioning themselves to get appointments, either as media aid 1 or media aid 2. I mean, these days, I hear they have all kinds of, one person might have up to 3, 4, 10 media aids. I hear they're not communicating at all. So everybody begins to position himself. That positioning itself means compromise, because you are no more objective. Remember that the traditional newspaper, especially the journalist, is meant to be objective in his reportage, but you are no more objective, you are subjective in that wise. Now, we have not even gotten to the point of being induced. Look, let me tell you funny. One of my first assignment as a what you call the cop reporter that I went to cover somewhere around Umuse. When we finished, I mean, I was just a cop reporter. That means I was an intern. When we finished a certain press briefing by a certain military administrator and all that, and envelopes were shared, and somehow they just, and it was strange to me, and I took it, and when I opened it, there was something inside, and it adjusted
Something.
me in
What
a
was
way.
inside? Ice cream, sweet candy, or money?
The concept of brown envelope, so I adjusted a bit, and I went home with a taxi, not a bus anymore. I was in grand style. So I mean, but looking back now, so you see that now they even do these things in millions or favors or what and all that. So why shouldn't they be compromised? Poverty, lack of training, lack of ethical standards, ethnicity, and religious affinity. All these are the demons that have compromised a reporter, that rather than be objective as a reporter is subjective. Now, what I was taught in early days was that a report is meant to be objective. But when you are now doing feature writing or opinion page or op-ed, or then you can be subjective. Then the newspaper will now have their own editorial decision, which is to the newspaper. But right now, objectivity is lost because of the way the society also has been compromised. So the malaise, the disease in the society has affected the journalist. Is not from mass; he's a Nigerian. So that also has affected him, and it's very unfortunate.
Oh wow! Let me put this to you. I mean, I'm sure you're not surprised of how I'm going to ask you. You gave the example of June 12, how Nigerian journalists live up to their billing. We've always had that Lagos Ibadan Axis press, which is more of the Yoruba and the Southwestern press, which has also, I mean, widely acclaimed to be the most vibrant and honest and all that. Now, with that reputation from the Awolowo time, Tribune, even before that, the first newspaper started in Abeokuta, Iwe-Iroyin, So the Yorubas have a track record of all that, and New Nigeria, we had in North, and all sort of stuff like that. Now, my question really is this. During democratic struggle, especially during the military, before we got to democracy, especially from the Babangida time till 1999, the journalists in Nigeria, I mean, even though we had compromised journalists, but their percentage was quite small compared to today. You understand? So now we had journalists from newspapers that were so pro-democratic in nature to the extent that we all loved them, respected them. Now, lo and behold, we have democracy. And today we have President Tinubu, who obviously, I mean, to be unfair to call him an activist back then, especially during the military, the Abacha, the Babangida days. He was an activist, clearly, because he fought. He was in Adeko and all that. So, but we have seen cases of journalists that were pro-democracy. They were activists back then in the days. And today, what they disseminate is totally opposite to what they were doing then. Does it mean that when you get government patronage or your brother or person is in power? I don't know how to explain that. I don't want to mention.
Yeah, I understand what you mean.
Why is it that people that fought for democracy as journalists, even as politicians, now get to power and they're actually worse than the jackboots? They're worse than the military people, I mean, but focal point now is journalism. We're talking journalism. If we start writing now, I can write 10 names, reputable journalists that fought for the struggle. And that's why someone like Chief Dele Momodu, I respect him a lot. He has friends in the APC, he's in the PDP, but he's speaking truth to power. It's very rare because the government of the day is vindictive. It doesn't matter how they want to spend it. They are vindictive. So how did pro-democratic journalists that were true to power back in the days are now today the major source of information for ethnic tension? They're creating problems everywhere, especially between the Igbos and the Yorubas.
Okay, that poison was planted by the politicians themselves. And unfortunately, some of the politicians of, today are politicians that were involved in the struggle. But remember that
even journalists, emphasis on journalists.
Yes, and that's what I'm going to. First, remember that. Let me also expand on the Lagos Ibadan axis. You discover that the ownership. Let's break journalism into ownership and also the practitioners. The ownership itself, and this is very critical. If you look at Guardian newspaper, it's owned by somebody from the South, and it's been there forever. Started by the Hebrews, by late Chief Alex Igbu. You look at Vanguard newspaper, started by Dr Akpan, who used to work with Punch and eventually started his own Vanguard newspaper. And these are people that have been there. So the leadership, the Lagos Ibadan press was a Nigerian press, but because Lagos was the center of activity, so you had all kinds of ethnic people working within the establishment of the Lagos Ibadan press axis. Yes, I do recognize the fact that as at then, every state government also had their own newspaper houses. I mean, the old Bendel State had Observer, Ogun State, I think, had Sketch, that the former Olabisi Onabanjo governor late was a columnist, Ayekoto, writing and all that. Then I think Cross River had Chronicles, Rivers had Tide and all that. So they had all kinds of papers, but because Lagos was the capital and Ibadan was not far from Lagos, and then Ibadan was the political capital of the Southwest as at it was. So that the Tribune was there in Ibadan. So that axis, but the practitioners were Nigerians and they were united on one cause, national development. Even when as the place developed, you discover that more people came in. I mean, even in the broadcast house, you have a lot of South owning both broadcast and newspaper now. But a lot of people worked there and they were all united. When June 12 happened, remember that journalists were victims of the military regime because they were easily picked up and ransacked all from time to time. So they were united in fighting a common enemy. Now, something happened. That unity that Nigerian displayed as journalists displayed, like regardless of whoever you were, as long as you were against society, your management or administration of the country was not right, they will fight you, they will engage you, they will hold you to account. Now, the moment politicians came, and replaced the military, politicians poisoned the whole environment. They introduced, to win elections and all that, they started introducing tribal sentiments, religious sentiments. Even within the same ethnic group, they will begin to segregate from state to state. It's from this state, it's not from this state. Within the same geopolitical zone, they will even discriminate. I mean, as we speak today, there is also a strong resentment by the other Yoruba-speaking states that Tinubu has, if you like, made it a Lagos club, where all these people came from Lagos and he took everybody from Lagos to be. Now, that is the kind of poison chalice that we have swallowed in Nigeria. Now, there lies the problem. The problem is political leadership. Ordinarily, I mean, you and I, Nigerians, friends, interested in Nigerian development and all that, but not necessarily from the same ethnic group. That doesn't matter. What matters is our objective reality, which is to make Nigeria great. Okay? But politicians come in and then they poison these things. They create division. And the media is such, because the mind is fertile, the meant to take these things to the media, and then you begin to expose the fault lines. Even people that were not even, they didn't even understand, they were not conscious of these things, become conscious of it, and that becomes the problem. You begin to mold opinion through that. It is the political class that have caused this division in Nigeria. I schooled all my life. I went to school in Lagos. I was born in Lagos. I went to school in Lagos. I don't know any other place but Lagos. That automatically means that 90% of my friends are from that axis. So I grew up, I didn't know any of these things. But so it is shocking to some of us that are pan-Nigerians. We don't even remember where we come from. We grew up in Lagos. That these politicians will come and poison the whole system. It is basically the politicians that have created this division among Nigerians. And I just pray that politicians will start to have fear of God and have some kind of moral and ethical standing themselves, so that they can stop inducing and promoting division among Nigerians. Take, for instance, the 2023 election. It was a disgrace in terms of the kind of reportage, the kind of things that even very senior journalists that you would not even believe, okay, even those ones that even preached unity, all fell into that trap of promoting some kind of ethnic sentiment. So there's this problem. So, but there's always a few good men. I mean, if you look at the good book, when Elijah was telling God that all the prophets are bowed to Baal, and God said 12,000 are still reserved. So there are always some people that are genuinely Nigerians and interested in national development, and also give it to some the Lagos Ibadan. There are some people that are standing their ground and engaging this government and even the previous government as it were. But the point I'm making is that the journalists have only been influenced by the reality of the society. I think Nigeria is not what it used to be.
Interesting. All right, let me ask you, this is your final question, but there might be a follow-up to it. Clearly, I'm sure there will be. So, has the Nigerian press, 60-something years down the line, fantastic track record and all that, as we speak today, have they lived up to expectation?
It will depend on. Let me be very careful in answering that question.
Because we're looking at. Let me rephrase. You know, there's traditional media, then there's social media.
Yes.
Let's forget about social media now. You understand? Let's look
the press is the traditional.
Yes. The Point, the Guardian, and all that. I mean, they're the ones that create the appointment. Minister for Information, Press Secretary, and all that. You know, they're the ones who know. They are the NUJs. They are the PAN. National Association of Newspaper Proprietors.
Yeah, the National Guild of Editors
all those
and
names,
all that.
You know, they are the ones the traditional media. So, do you think they have lived up to expectation?
I will say yes. I'll say yes.
Why?
I mean, historically and contemporary, they have.
Okay.
They from before 1940.
My question ab initio with, as we speak today, do you think they have? I mean,
yes, they have. Because if we have to look at it from, for you to come out with a first class, there must be an accumulation of your grades from the first time you entered until eventually you graduate. So, they have not 100%, none is 100% anywhere in the world, but in the struggle for independence, they lived up to expectation. In the struggle against the military, they lived up to expectation. They really, especially under the Abacha junta, whatever it was, they lived up to expectation. And so they have been there. And they've also paid a supreme price. Journalists have lost their lives in this struggle. Okay. You remember like Bagudu Kalto and all that, Bomb and Delegiwa and all that. So they've also paid, some of them have also died in line of duty. Delegiwa and all that. Some were accused and jailed. Look at, I think there was this other journalist that was jailed with Lawan Gwadape, also that used to publish a magazine, also a female. I'll remember her name now.
I know. So,
Christian and the rest of them. So they have to the extent, and they've paid the supreme price. So we cannot take that away from them. And the early journalists were also politicians, and the early politicians were also journalists in a way. So there was that marriage, but the problem was that the objective was common. It was towards a certain emancipation of Nigerians getting independence and fighting against the military. So they have. Now, where it begins to get a bit shaky is the moment from 1999, some of them, some are still standing, but some now, somebody said the Nigerians is about stomach infrastructure. Some start to look at, but that also brings to the issue to the fore, the remuneration of the journalists. If media houses pay journalists well and give them good insurance or life assurance policies and all that, perhaps it might reduce the susceptibility to being influenced, being induced. But when those things are not there, and then reality hits you that when the child is going off to school, you need to pay school fees, wife is troubling you for choponias, we call it, and all that, you begin to look at, so when this guy is come knocking on the door, you begin to do some certain things. So some very fantastic journalists during the struggle are no more in journalism, they are now in government houses And some are even press secretaries, even after government has they're still being press secretaries and all that to people, you know, and all that. So they have, to the extent, you called people like Dele Momodu, okay? Dele Momodu, close to MK Abiola, was also the forefront of it, of that struggle as a journalist. Apparently, he's from Edo State, I understand.
Yeah, he is.
You know, it was in the forefront of that, fighting and all that. I mean, so they have been there. So it is an important, apparently I understand them. Professor Patutomi also even, I think Ab initio studied communication in Nsukka and all that, and has been in the media space in a way, even to Patito's gang, to Patai communication and all that. They have in a way. But in recent times, there are some that have had to bend human nature, stomach infrastructure and what and all that. So it's a question of the owners of the media. They will now need to look more into the welfare of the journalists, so that the journalists can stand and be as they used to be during the colonial period. It's not just about passion anymore. We are not fighting for independence anymore. It's a career. And you need to make a living out of the career. You need to be able to pay your bills also. So I think the media houses need to look at that now, and so that the journalists can be a lot more objective in their writing and less available for inducement by politicians. But I think I'll give them a pass mark, not 100 over 100. But yes, I think they have.
Okay, fine. But is it fair to also say that failure of leadership, that corruption that has engulfed the Nigerian troposphere, the Nigerian stratosphere, that affected the police, the education sector, the health sector, that also, and in recent times, that emerged the judiciary in so much scandal, is also what's affecting the journalism profession?
Oh, sure. The media is a component of the society. The society is rotten, but interestingly, the media mirrors the society. Okay, and the media is supposed to watch the society as a watchdog, mirror society, and also engage society and make people account. Okay, that's why they are the fourth realm. That's why they are the watchdog. That's why, they are the mirror of society. However, the media, the practitioners of the media practitioners are human beings they also have emotions and needs. So the moment, and take for instance now, how the difficulty that Nigerians are going through due to these reforms, these hard decisions and reforms that is ongoing, and all that. So people are under pressure, including the media practitioners and journalists. Now imagine that a journalist that is under pressure domestically is now being reached out by one of the media aides, because some of their colleagues are now in government houses. So the colleague calls him and say, I want you to do a story. And you know that the story is not correct, it's not accurate. But the story will come with an attachment. By the time the guy looks at his situation and conditions and electricity here is down, ban A, ban B, ban all kinds of whatever, he may likely fall for that. So the society itself, the politicians, the same way they have almost wrecked Nigeria through bad governance and bad policies, that has affected everyone. In fact, even the lawyers, the medical doctors, everything. I mean, you hear a story of a doctor harvesting organs and all that, in Nigeria. Very strange things happen these days, So it has affected, because they are also living within the space, But God forbid, if all journalists will fall for that, the society is highly threatened, because it is the media that can hold the politicians to account.
Because there doesn't seem to be too much accountability going on. The state house of assembly, the political sphere, if the judiciary is compromised, the legislature is compromised, the police.
And the president, the current president himself is a media owner. And this is where you get the people.
He has a TV station, he has a
radio station, has a newspaper.
Yeah, we even heard that maybe it's one of the shareholders of Punch. I can't verify that, but we've heard that. Anyway, also maybe even Tribune, we don't know. So we hear all these things. Most of very
at least Punch has shown some level of independence and at times critical in their editorial. Yeah, and you can't even hear Nation. Yeah. You won't hear Nation that is owned by him 100%. Nation,
in America,
Nation is like NTA.
In America, you hear conservative leaning, liberal leaning. I mean, it's common knowledge that Fox too is pro this
ideology. Do we have ideology in Nigeria?
Yeah, so.
Do we have ideology in Nigeria?
Well, I'm not in a position to answer that question because we don't even know what our political party stands for. In the past, we used to say progressive, conservative. Now, I think the common thing is that everybody's compromised. I mean, our problem is failure of leadership.
It's leadership.
With failure of leadership. There's nothing to
and once the head is rotten, everything just
that exactly what's happening. The current president of Nigeria is not doing well. It's a total disaster. There's no way. There's no diplomatic way to put it. It's a total disaster. And some of us are.
How would you now read the previous president? Anyway, we are focusing on media. So
Buhari was a shock to the system, the worst we've ever had, and everybody thought that's the worst they can ever get. You understand? Even when Tinubu came in, and I felt Obi will have been the right person for the job. I don't hide it. I say it, and people have accused me of being pro. There's nothing wrong with being pro somebody. I want the best for my country. You understand?
Yeah, of course.
I felt when Tinubu came in, even though it was rigged in, I felt that it can't be as bad as Buhari. But right now, it's worse than Buhari. I'm sure Buhari will be laughing somewhere. But I mean, you cannot, with the kind of economy we have in Nigeria today, you're telling people to cut their coats to their loins, you're telling people to be prudent. You don't buy yachts, all those things. I mean, it's disgraceful. Even if Nigerians are not resisting, even Nigeria continue their docility and all that nonsense, I think it's just embarrassing. And I think somewhere along the line, the chicken will come up to roost. How it will happen, I always tell people, when it will happen, I don't know. What will happen, I don't know. But I know it's not going to be forever. Nothing lasts forever. You understand? And Nigeria is not going to go on like this forever. It's
no. We will self-correct everything.
Yeah, we've reached such a critical stage in our history that something has to give. Something has to give. You have a dam, a flood in Maiduguri, and we were told that it was a dam that collapsed, and money has been budgeted for that dam every year for the last God knows how many years, and the money is not. So the truth of the matter is that if the president of the nation is chopping, like we use in pidgin English parlance, his wife is chopping, his children are chopping, he can never hold anybody for chopping. Chopping in this instance for people that don't understand that.
So it's a culture.
He's stealing. Case closed, stealing. So anyway, we call it a wrap there. Dr. Akpan, thank you so much for always leading our call. You're a fantastic guy, enlightened, and you're a very studious guy. You just go for it. And thank you to all our viewers in the 7 continents of the world. We say thank you. Thank you, Antarctica, even though there are very, very, very negligible amount of people living in Antarctica, But we thank you, continent of Australia. We thank you, continent.
But there'll be Nigerians in Antarctica, I'm sure.
I'm sure there'll be one we go, man. Thank you, Asia. Thank you, Mother Africa. Thank you, North Africa. Thank you, Europe. Thank you, South America. We have a lot of fellowship in Brazil, Mexico, and what's this country? There's this guy that's always calling me in Jamaica, and there's one guy in Belize.
Caribbean.
Caribbean. So we're there, so we're growing. Thank you for your subscription. Thank you for your loyalty. We'll be back next week for something else that reverberates with the people. Dr. Akpan, thank you for what you do.
Thank you, Ade. Well done and good job.
God bless you all.
Keep shining. All right.
Thank you.